Hey, what's up, guys? My name's June. I work as a barista, and I've seen a lot of people asking for kind of a guide to getting into coffee for beginners. It can be really, really overwhelming to really try coffee for the first time, like especially walking into the coffee aisle at the grocery store. It's kind of daunting. You're really assaulted with so many choices. So today we're going to kind of break that down, and I'm going to teach you how to make a pretty good first-timer's cup of coffee. This isn't going to be in depth, okay? So I'm not really going to get into really precise measurements and temperatures and all of that we'll hopefully get into in a later video if this is something people actually want to see. But for now, we're just going to go for the basics. There are really two different distinctions between coffee, in my opinion. So there's the type of bean, and that's not to say that coffee beans are necessarily different. It really, all of the distinctions can come down to roast, but the two main distinctions is drip coffee versus espresso coffee. And since this is the first episode, we're not really going to explore that distinction. We're just going to deal with drip coffee. So that's the kind of stuff that you're going to make at home and you're going to just drink straight or with some cream and sugar, you know. And then the other main distinction is the roast level. So you can buy coffee basically any roast level, but the main distinction is like light versus dark roast. So dark roast is going to have names like French and Italian, and light roast is going to be called like Ethiopian. And you can really tell the difference between the two. Darker roasts have kind of more of a richer, darker, nuttier flavor to it, whereas light roasts, they're kind of fruity. It has a very natural sweetness to it. That's not to say that light roast is sweet coffee. It's just a little bit more sweet than dark roast, you know? When I started making this, I really didn't want you to have to really invest in anything because honestly, coffee's not for everyone, and that's okay. So I didn't want you to have to spend a whole ton of money, so I decided to make this first episode about the French press. It's a type of brewing, it's a method, of brewing coffee that uses this guy, a French press. They're really fairly inexpensive. I got mine from IKEA for like 10 or 15 bucks years ago, and it still works phenomenally. And also, I'd really suggest when there's not a pandemic going on, you can buy coffee in bulk. So I would really suggest just buying like 2 to 4 cups worth of like whatever beans sound good to you, and then just make a bunch of coffee and see what you like. I prefer dark roast, but a lot of people prefer light roast. Okay, I'm sorry. I told myself I wasn't going to talk for a long time. So let's cut out like the 3 minutes of dumb stuff I left in there, and let's just get into making some coffee. So the main first step you're going to want to do is preheat your French press. So that does one of two things. First of all, when it's kind of chilly, if you pour just almost boiling water into a glass vessel, you might just break it. And also, like, you really want to maintain that heat throughout the brewing process. So if you have a container that's room temperature and you pour hot water in there, ignoring the breaking thing, so that's going to leach a lot of the heat out of the water that you pour into it. So it's not going to maintain that temperature that you want. Once we have that preheated, we're going to take a pan. If you have a kettle, that is fantastic, especially like electric ones where you can really control the heat. But since I don't want you to have to invest anything, we're going to bring some water up to a good temperature using a pan. So I'm going to pour about a cup's worth of coffee into this pan, and we're going to set it onto the stove. We don't want it quite boiling. We want it just right when it's about to boil. If you want, you can also bring it to a full, really good boil and then take it off the heat and let it sit for like 30 seconds. That works fine too if you don't want to watch it. Just whatever. And again, this is all subjective. We're not going to really go into temperature. this is just how I like my coffee, and this is how the shop I work for brews our coffee. So once your coffee's brought up to the temperature you want it to be, we're going to pour out the water that we had sitting in our French press. I forgot to mention earlier, and I'm too lazy to go back and re-record that. Honestly, hot water just from your sink is totally fine for this, in my opinion. People will probably disagree with me, but yeah, it's whatever. So yeah, once we have that poured out, we're going to put about 2 tablespoons of our desired coffee. I'd really recommend grinding your coffee yourself, but for this I've bought store-bought coffee. If you have a grinder already, I would suggest like a medium to coarse grind for a French press, but really kind of whatever will work. If it's finer, you might get some grounds in your coffee, but c'est la vie. That's kind of the thing you get when you brew at home. And I've never had a problem with grinds, really. I don't care too much. But anyway, I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic. So, once we have 2 tablespoons in there, we're going to pour our hot water on top of that and give it a good stir. Now you're going to take your lid. Mine, I forgot over by the sink, so I'll be right back. We're going to take our lid, put it on top, but we're going to keep the plunger extended. We want to keep that heat inside the vessel, but we're not ready to press that down just yet. We're going to leave it sitting there for about 4-ish minutes. And this is another thing that a lot of coffee videos and stuff is going to tell you have to wait it like exactly 4 minutes, you know, but it's subjective. If you like yours a little bit more extracted, then you can leave it longer, but if you want something like a little bit less extracted, then you can push it down earlier. So once we've let ours sit for about 4 minutes, we're going to press this down slowly. That's really important. Doing it slowly keeps the coffee grounds from getting agitated too much by that motion, and that can cause some flavors you don't necessarily want. And yeah, that's basically it. You've got a cup of coffee right there. Grab your favorite mug, and you're set. Now you may be thinking, wait, June, in that first shot, you had some like chips sitting there. What was up with that? Why did you have some chips? If you bought some, guess what? It's not actually needed for this video, so you might as well give them to me. I like chips. Thanks. This is a joke that I forgot to include in the beginning, so it's not going to make any sense. But yeah, hey, I hope your coffee turns out great. May your beans never be burnt and your brews be brewy. If you like this, maybe stick around. I'm hoping to do some more of these. It's kind of tricky right now. I don't have access to an espresso machine since my work is closed down, but hopefully in the future I'll be able to do some more videos about like espresso drinks. So hopefully for the next episode we're going to get into like lattes, and if everything's still closed by the time I get around to making that, we're instead going to focus on cold brew. So yeah, hang out and let me know what you think. I realized while editing this that a lot of my footage was out of focus, so I apologize for that. And like I've said before, this is just kind of a fun thing I'm doing, so I don't want to go back and reshoot it. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking now. Have a great day. Bye.